Hello and welcome to the daily newscast within the United Countries special by First Ukraine. You can find us at the frequencies available at our website, firsttoday.com. Taras Chechko is working for you in the studio. Thank you for joining us. Ukrainian military prevented diversions that terrorists were preparing on the motorway Donetsk-Mariupol. A group of saboteurs were met by secret servicemen. In the battle, one military was killed. Terrorists do not stop fighting and declare that they are preparing to seize cities controlled by Ukraine.
Terrorists plan to cross the river Kalmius with fights. Ukrainian intelligence group found terrorists nearby the village Pushchevik in Novazovsk region. The NSDC says that one soldier died and two more were injured during the fight. According to available data, the terrorists were preparing to cross Kalmius and hold a number of diversions on the route Donetsk-Mariupol. Our intelligence officers were engaged into this battle. The enemy saboteurs suffered losses and were forced to retreat eastward. The ATO staff reports that overnight terrorists shelled in the areas of Mykolaiivka and Debaltsevo with great installations twice. Shasty city was also shelled. The sovereign positions of security forces of Ukraine were under terrorist attack, in particular ATO positions in Pavlopilla, Zamozhne and Talakivka. Donetsk airport is also constantly shelled. Uncontrolled terrorist military units tried to conquer the dispatch tower of Donetsk airport. The battle lasted for half an hour. This attack was repelled. This strategic object remained to be under control of Ukrainian soldiers. At night, the combatants battled with our soldiers nearby Novolaska. The object is under our control. A token of terrorist battalion Vostok and personalized pass which allows to pass all the roadblocks of so-called DNR was found by SSU in the pockets of Ukrainian citizens who tried to pass Ukrainian roadblock on the route Donetsk-Mariupol. 29-year-old man was detained. He appeared to be a spy. Terrorist leader Alexander Zakharchenko reported to Russian mass media that terrorists are planning to capture Slovyansk, Mariupol and Kramatorsk, which are under control of Ukraine. We anticipate hard hours of hostilities. We want to take Slovyansk, Kramatorsk and Mariupol. Unfortunately, it is impossible to negotiate a peaceful plan. To answer the leaders of terrorists about the capturing of Ukrainian cities, we have a very nice saying: if the sky falls, we shall catch larks. Dare to try. Yana Tanchak, Yulia Reshitko, First Ukraine.
The OSCE mission conducted a test launch of a drone in the area of Mariupol. It will oversee the implementation of the ceasefire. Regular flights are planned since tomorrow. The special mission already has 2 drones and awaits for the arrival of 2 more. They will fly to the south of Donetsk towards the Sea of Azov, also to the east of the border with Russia and to the west to the line of demarcation.
These UAVs will complement the work of our patrols. They will help to look into areas where our patrols and monitors can't go.
Those who cannot combat smuggling at the border will defend it in the ATO zone. President Petro Poroshenko criticized the work of border guards, the security service of Ukraine, customs representatives and police in Odessa. During the meeting, he listened to reports on the importation of goods into the customs territory of Ukraine. Poroshenko said that corruption schemes still work under the auspice of authorities.
If you seek where to find the violations of customs law, Mr. Minister of the Interior, Mr. Chairman of the Customs Service and Mr. Prosecutor General do the same I did in the morning. I sent all my assistants to the market 7th kilometer. There we inspected 11 outlets and checked the documents on customs clearance. Every of these outlets didn't have these documents. But the variety of goods which are imported free of customs charge, killing Ukrainian industry, is large. I will not turn Ukraine into banana republic.
In Odessa, the president informed that he has appointed a new head of the State Border Service. This is Lieutenant General Viktor Nazarenko. Before, he was the first deputy head. Let me recall, on the 6th of October, Poroshenko dismissed Mykola Litvin from the post of the head of the State Border Service. To ensure the security of voters and commissioners on the election day, Prime Minister Arseniy Yatsenyuk demands law enforcement representatives. At the cabinet meeting, he said that he does not rule out new attempts by Russia to destabilize the situation in Ukraine. Our correspondent will tell you more.
That is government session aimed at final preparations for parliamentary elections. There are no problems with its financing, as the head of the Central Election Commission Secretariat reports. The Commission calls for every local authority to check the preparations for elections of local polling stations. They are to check all the premises as for central heating, electricity, fire safety and communications. Meanwhile, the representatives of Civic Network Opora requires from CEC to publicize the precise number of polling stations in Donbass where people will elect the majority representatives to parliament. It is for us not to become the witnesses of partisan voting and opening of one polling station where the voters choose one candidate. The Committee of Voters of Ukraine reports that 99% of violations are made by majority candidates. The peculiarity of this election campaign is that there are more attempts to bribe voters and less attempts to use administrative resources. We have the data from 40% of polling stations about the attempts to bribe the voters. The Minister of the Interior stresses that according to new laws, a person who bribes can receive 8 years of prison. Arsen Avakov also cites statistics. 227 criminal proceedings have already been instituted for abuse during elections. The largest part of violations is made by self-promoters who are the representatives of former powers. However, among the violators, there are representatives of pro-government parties, like Democratic Blockers, Batkivshchina, Narodny Front, Poroshenko Bloc, Leshko Party, and a number of other parties. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister requires from the law enforcement service to secure the voters and members of commissions. Yatsenyuk doesn't exclude the possibility of new attempts to destabilize the situation in Ukraine by Russia. Anyone, even thinking about the possibility of disruption of the electoral process, should be imprisoned and brought to justice. Any attempts to destabilize the situation in the framework of the law must be strictly banned. Meanwhile, the head of Defense Ministry argues that every soldier defending Ukraine has the right to vote, but will not be able to realize this right. According to him, only 1/3 of ATO soldiers, which is 10,000 military men, will be able to tick the bulletin. They are not able to vote as they didn't put their names into the register of voters. As there is no law which can let do this outside military base, all the units in the ATO zone, of course, are outside the military bases. A part of displaced people from Donbass will not be able to vote. According to the Minister of Social Policy, from 227,000 of displaced persons, only 160,000 have managed to turn up to the state register of voters. Pavlo Tyrskiy, Mykola Chebotaryov, Yulia Reshitko, First, Ukraine.
All district election commissions in Luhansk Oblast and part of Donetsk Oblast have received voting ballots. This was stated by Deputy Head of the Central Election Commission Secretariat, Serhiy Dubovik, during a meeting with ambassadors in Kiev. According to him, bulletins are already present at the polling stations. Elections will be held in 5 districts of Luhansk Oblast and 11 districts of Donetsk Oblast. The Verkhovna Rada will not include all 450 MPs, but a little more than 400. However, according to Deputy Chairman of the SIS, Andriy Mahera, the legitimacy of Parliament will not be affected.
It didn't happen because of absence of Parliament will to transfer the political system into parliamentary one and choose 450 deputies. We're obliged to choose the system when the Parliament consists of a bit more than 400 deputies. They ask whether it influenced the Parliament legitimacy. I can answer, no way. Parliament will be chosen at any weather and under any conditions. Ukraine will receive its legislative body of new convocation.
At airports of Kiev, additional sanitary control was introduced due to Ebola. This was said to journalists by Deputy Head of Kiev City State Administration on Health and Security Issues, Mikhailo Radutsky. He assured that at the airports of the capital, there are representatives of the sanitation all the time. If one is suspected of having Ebola infection or other dangerous diseases, the process of localization begins. In particular, an employee of the sanitation meets the plane and, in case of need, together with airport employees and police officers, derives a passenger that bears signs of infection to carry out the necessary checks. At this moment in Ukraine, there is no case of infection of passengers with Ebola virus. 14,000 rubles a month, such a sum will families of killed and missing Russian military get. The relevant law was signed by President of Russia, Vladimir Putin. It shall come into effect in January 2016. According to the author of the law in the Russian Senate, Viktor Ozerov, primarily it goes saying about soldiers who died or disappeared during the Chechen and Afghan wars. The law does not apply to soldiers who fought in Ukraine, said the senator, because they were only volunteers. But for members of their families, such a law may be adopted, Ozerov said. In mid-October, the Russian human rights activist Olena Vasilyeva said that in the war in Donbass, more than 4,000 Russian soldiers died. From the South Africa to Odessa Oblast arrived the first ship with about 85,000 tons of coal. In conformity with the contract, 1 million tons is to be delivered to Ukraine. This coal will reduce the shortage of raw material, which ceased to be produced in Donbass due to military actions. Most of the goods will be unloaded at the Ilychivsk port. Our correspondents have been there.
Dock workers, leader led by Gennady Sinyuk, prepared to immediately unloading coal. Speed is a saving because parking cargo ship for a day cost $75,000. Almost all 85,000 tons worth of coal, dockers paying reload for 5-6 days. Partially in the work, it is hard physical labor, dusty and dirty, but we agree because it is necessary in the scale of our country, in the scales of area, and of course it is our salary. Coordination of unloading and sending of coal across Odessa and Ilychivsk port. We should not only timely release the vessel, but also quickly driving wagons. Coal from Port Ilychivsk and south will be on the TPP at west, north and center of Ukraine. Intensity of unloading planning to give 15,000 tons per day. Post is ready, we start processing of this vessel. Also, we plan processing on 2 terminals. The first one, it is special one, Metal Port Terminal. This project of coal supply in Ukraine realized Kyiv company Ukrenergo, which is engaged payment of raw materials and transportation in Ukraine. However, the company refused to give more information about price of fuel and how much TPP we received. Viktor Vasilyk, Dmitry Ishchenko, Amina Ahmed, First Ukraine.
It was the United Country newscast by First Ukraine. You can find more details at our website firstoe.com. Taras Chechko was working for you in the studio. We wish you only good news. Take care and goodbye.